Hi guys, it's TripleC. This is what I have in my bedroom. Performance-wise, it can do what I asked it to do, minus the editing. It has an Intel Core i3-6100, a dual-core processor running at 3.7 GHz with 4 threads. And it is running on an industrial-grade motherboard of sorts, which didn't support modern connectivities such as front panel USB 3.0 on the newer case, and because it's uber small and not a particularly well-designed case. If you needed more horsepower in it, such as this RX 570 video card I got in here, I have cut out the front panel to mount an exhaust fan to it and added two 18mm fans in the back, which is loud as I still do like this little case, only if I didn't need a little bit more powerful hardware in it. If you're on the budget and needs a smaller build and doesn't need a hot as hell video card in it, I still recommend it for the simplicity. Anyways, the biggest issue is the mess of wires it requires to use it. One for speakers, one for USB hub, one for the mouse to go on USB hub, one cable for Wi-Fi, because my cheap dongle needed to be a little bit closer to the router. It is a nice temporary solution if you needed something, but not for a long run. It is getting in the way of cleaning my bedroom as well. So this is that time of the year again, probably the best time for us to get some new hardware. But there is no video cards to buy, and I cannot find any worthy laptops to replace the current one. So let's just give up and just upgrade what's necessary at the moment until this crazy shortage blow over, that is. So for this build, I got an AMD B550 base motherboard. Now obviously that means AMD CPU. I got a Ryzen 3 3300X for this upgrade, 16GB of T-Force Delta, RGB DDR4 3200 MHz RAMs, and a TB M.2 SSD. And because someone will take the old system, and here's the new SFX form factor power supply for it. And here's the case of choice. This is a darkFlash DLH21 case for the mini-itx motherboard. More on that later. Did I mention there's no video card available to buy? So for the time being, my good old unknown China brand RX 570 will do for a while. Alright, let's get to unboxing. So this is the Gigabyte Aorus B550i Aorus Pro AX. Well, this is a little confusing. That's a brand there, and there's the brand here. Whatever. So B550i Aorus Pro AX. This is the mini-itx base B550 chipset AMD motherboard from Gigabyte. Jesus Christ, I've never opened a motherboard box this thick. Let's see this side. Not much on this side. Just the model and some of its specs. This side. Just saying that it's motherboard in different language. Oh well. Nothing here. How about the back? What does it promise this time? 3rd Gen AMD Socket AM4 B550 chipset. There's one PCIe. It has DisplayPort and 2 HDMIs on board. There's support 2 memory DIMMs. Alright. And it supports 4 SATA 3s. So there's 4 SATA ports. And then there are 2 M.2 for the M.2 SSD. There's one right underneath the front heatsink, and then there's one in the back, which I'll show you later on. Now, USB support, there's one of USB 3.2 Gen 2 with the USB Type-C port, and then there's one of USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A, and 6 of USB 3.2 Gen 1, plus 2 of USB 2.0. Oh well. Well, that's a mouthful. But we all going to get used to that anyway, sooner or later. Realtek audio, okay. And then 2.5 gigabit LAN. I don't think I'm going to be able to use that anytime soon, but it's nice to have for the future. Now Wi-Fi 6, that's what's cool. Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5. Combo on board, that's basically what I needed for this build. Now, 8-phase VRM solution with 98 smart power stage. That's good. Advanced thermal design. We'll see how advanced that is, but shouldn't be any problem really. PCIe 4.0. SOAR free with Wi-Fi 6. Well, I'm just happy to have a decent Wi-Fi, and that antenna. I'll show you about that antenna. Pretty neat. Gigabit, 2.5 gigabit. Some of the software stuff. Smart Fan 5 and stuff, ain't gonna use it. And then the Realtek audio thing, that should be pretty decent. Now QFlash Plus, that's a Gigabyte thing. Cool. Some ports there. Yeah, so that's that. Let's take a look at inside. Alright, what's this? It's a guarantee thing. Alright. Right off the bat, we have the motherboard. Wow, that's heavy itself. And then, wow. Okay. And then some accessories. Here's the antenna. Got some cables. SATA cables. What's this? Not sure. Looks like for RGB lighting. User manual and the driver CD. Oh. And of course the Aorus sticker. Okay. I guess that's it. Alright. There we go. So the motherboard itself. Oh, yep. So somebody have opened it, of course. It's for the shop that I bought it from. They have to put warranty stickers. That's why it's open already. Wow, that looks nice. That looks real nice. So this is a mini-itx motherboard. And underneath this heatsink, you can put the M.2 SSDs. Looks like it's got 4 SATA ports. Here's the PCI Express. The backplate is already on it. So here's the Wi-Fi antenna. We got the USB 3.2 here. There's one port of that, and then 2.5 gig. I should say 2.5 G gigabit network. We got some more USB 3.2. We got a display port output, HDMI output. Here's some audio output and inputs. Yeah. Look at all the heatsink. This thing is pretty heavy. Okay, let's get to the power supply. I couldn't find my X-Acto knife for some reason, so I'm gonna have to use this one here, which it could be a little bit awkward, but it cuts all the same. So let me just get rid of that first. All right, this is a FSP Dagger Pro 550 watt SFX power supply unit. Well, FSP, the company, I associate with this company mostly with industrial grade power supplies, as I've been working at the industrial computing company, I should say industrial computing manufacturer, for the last 4 years. And yeah, most of the power supply that I see are from FSP. So yeah, let's take a look at the box. It's the back. Here's some features. Compliance with the newest SFX 12-volt version 3.3. Efficiency is above 90% at typical load. mini-itx, multiple intelligence ability chipset inside. I don't know what that chip is. Semi-fanless design. Semi-fanless. I can see a fan there. Semi-fanless. I don't know what that means, but it's guaranteed silent operation. That's good. Quiet and long-lasting 92mm ball bearing fan. Right. Semi-fanless, but it has a 92mm fan. Very nice. Ribbon cables for the needs for enthusiasts. That means modular cables, I guess. Power single rail 12-volt design. Nice. Full Japanese electrolytic capacitors. Cool. Japanese capacitors. Intel latest CPU radio. Using it for AMD this time. Should be the same. Full protection OCP, OBP, SCP, OPP, OTP. Alright, no idea what any of these stuff are, but should be a decent power supply. 80 plus go, good enough. So that single rail 12 volt gives you 45 amps. Alright. Okay, so yeah, so that's that. Let's open this thing up. Right off the bat, user manual, warranty card, and the power supply itself. Here's the power cable. Look at that tiny thing. SFX. Nice. Even labels for you, like these ones are for motherboard, this port for CPU, these are for your graphics card, and the rest are for peripherals, hard drives and stuff. Great. And here are the modular cables that come with. And what's this? Okay, so a bracket to install onto your case. So let's get it built up, and we will talk about the build. This is always another thing for me, that the stock cooler or AMD's requires you to take off the bracket from the motherboard. Then why still design the board with the brackets as default mounting methods if the standard default CPU cooler from AMD is going to use the screw-ons? The stupid thing doesn't come off, and the motherboard box did not come with the tools. So gotta use a wrench. Ah, great. Now I broke it. The thread broke off. Man. Good thing the motherboard comes with the extra one. Possible unknown issue? That's ridiculous amounts of heatsink for SSD. So the case is pretty tall, and I'm having a hard time finding a more decent kind of camera angle for it. So you gotta do what you gotta do. Let's take a look at this build. Here it is. So right off the bat, let's talk about the I/O first. As you can see, it doesn't have I/O anywhere else except for the top. Well, I'll show you about that once I have the side doors open, but for now, the power button is right here, and we have a reset button. But then for this case, this reset button is also the lighting kind of control, but well, we'll talk about that later. But this is a reset button for me right now. Here's a Type-C connectivity right here. You can connect that to your motherboard if your motherboard supports it. And here we have a audio jack, 3.5mm audio jack. And then we have two front panel USB ports. Well, front panel, more like top panel. And this top panel is pretty neat. It's actually magnetic. So if you want to access your real I/O, you just lift it up, because it's got 4 magnets at the bottom. And you can access your I/Os. Okay, so notice the motherboard is mounted sideways, so the I/Os are facing up. So the Aorus motherboard, as you can see here, we have the antenna connected to it. That's for the Wi-Fi 6 and the Bluetooth that's in it. And then the power supply is actually at the bottom of the case, but then here it has a lead, power lead up to the top as well. Everything's gonna come out from this little hole in the back. So then, as far as the case or placement concerned, all the cable come up on one place. So you can do pretty decent cable management. And you can see here, that's where the video card is. So all the air is gonna vent out to the top, and then the top have the mesh in there. So it's pretty good. And here we have a fan that takes out the air out from the case that's going up, so that's good. Here you see a bunch of thumb screws. All the side panels, all 4 side panels, once you release the thumb screws, they come out easy. So let's take a look at the front first. Now, as you can see here, it's a vertical setup. So the motherboard is put on sideways. I have the original cooler that came with the 3300X. I didn't get an aftermarket cooler just yet. I'm a little bit concerned about how far it can actually overclock, and what kind of a cooler that I can get. I cannot get a full-size 15cm cooler like the Hyper 212 that I have here. That'd be a little bit too tall. But there is a 13cm, a little bit over 13cm of space, that height that you can install a cooler to. So that's pretty neat. There are a lot of options for that, and we look into that after, because even if it doesn't overclock too far, still got to overclock, you know. So that's what I'm going to do. And this case have a pretty neat thing that, as you can see, there are 4 mounting holes here. That is for this bracket right here. Check out this bracket. This case is also designed with water cooling in mind, all-in-ones. So you can mount your radiator right onto this bracket, and then you can put it on right here. So you can have a water cooling solution with this case. So you can see, you can easily have a radiator up there with your cooler. There's a lot of space. Or if you don't have a cooler, water cooler, you can do what I do here. Add an exhaust fan or intake fan, whatever you want to improve cooling. Where you see here, that's where the power connectivity to the motherboard is. It's really hard to see what's going on in there now, but these cables, they're kind of hard. This is as tidy as I can get it to be. I think it's all right. Everything's out of the way, except for there are some LEDs on the motherboard that you cannot see them now since they're right underneath, right behind the motherboard. You can only see a little bit, but that's okay. With the case close up, you can't see much anyway, which you can still see the rims LED. That's fine, the RGB lighting. Now you see 2 hard drives here. These 2 hard drives are old traditional hard drives that I have. This is my bedroom computer, secondary computer, so I use some of the older hard drives for storage. 500 gigabyte, a terabyte. So I'm gonna continue to use them. It is continue to be bedroom computer. The case comes with the RGB lighting. It's at the bottom, it goes round, but I couldn't get it to work. I don't know if mine is broken or if I just don't understand it. The motherboard, the Gigabyte motherboard does support ARGB. It has support right there. I plug it in, nothing happens. So I took it off and then I put my own RGB lighting, the 12 volt ones in. And then they also have the connectivity for that. So I use that, it works just as well. It's no big deal. Those RGBs, they're very cheap now. So I don't even think about it. And then to use the 12 volt ones, I only need 1 cable. With the ARGB ones that came with the case, there are actually 3 cables. There's one that's supposed to connect to your motherboard. There is one that kind of come out as a SATA power cable. I don't know if perhaps it provides power to the SATA drives if you want an additional one, which is kind of odd. And then there's like another cable for, I don't even remember anymore. So it's not important. I do it like that. Everything looks neat here. That's all the space. There's a lot I can do if you want to improve the cooling. Now, if we look at this side, you can see the video card is mounted vertically as well. It's out of the way. All the side panel have mesh, so then it's really open for air to be sucked in to cool the video card. So the video card, it's at its peak performance. There's no thermal issues. Although, of course, that also means if your video card is a little bit loud, the computer can get quite loud too. So the video card is right there. It doesn't get in the way with anything. If your power supply is cable, it's easy to deal with, like the one I have, then yeah, you can easily do cable management, get everything out of the way, like the way it is. It's not so bad. Everything's here, tight them out, tidy, and it's not blocking the power supply's cooling. As I said, all sides mesh. So that is taking all the air in easily. Nothing's blocking it. But look at that power supply. SFX. I never used those before. This is, well, the second time. Just look at this power supply here. It's all nice and neat, installed right onto this. The case supports SFX power supplies, so the mounting holes are perfectly fit for those. Now, the motherboard, it does have a second M.2 slot, so if I want to install another M.2 SSD, I can just open the back, plug it in, scoot it up, nice and easy. They make everything easy. I mean, look at I have it a little bit too tight, but 2 seconds. Okay. Look at this, thumb screw. You don't have to have it up tight. You put it onto this caddy, it just come right out. Installation is really easy. Let me just take this off so I can show you. The back of this caddy, you see there's a little insert here. It has an arrow on it. It makes it really easy for you to install one of those. You just put the screws up in the back. Hard drive, 2.5 inch for your hard drive, your SSDs, what have you. Plug it in, push it down, thumb screw, go in. There we go, voila. Ready to go. Makes it easy. I mean, look at these side panels. It's got a layers of mesh in the back. Insert mesh, look at this thing. You can easily take it out, clean out the dust, and then just insert it back in. Good to go. There's a lot of space for thermal solution. This is the back case. We have the two sides that look exactly the same. They look like this, the bigger one. Same design. You got a mash in there, comes out, clean it. So then you don't have to worry about cleaning it, because cleaning it would be really easy to do. If you want to tell the difference between back and the front, the back have that hole for the cables, and at the front, it's got a little logo on the side. Actually not that small in comparison to my other case. It's actually quite big, but because it's a cube and everything comes out from one exit, that makes arrangement this computer very, very easy. It's like a really big Xbox or a PlayStation. And let's do some CPU benchmarks for the comparison. Okay, benchmarks. This time, I'm not focusing on 3D benchmarks. I'll be focusing on CPU benchmarks mostly, since it's about the CPU upgrade mostly. So, the main system, Ryzen 5 2600 at 4 GHz. That's paired with a 3000 MHz RAM, 16 GB, 8x2. I should say 8 times 2 of 8 GB. And then now we have the Ryzen 3 3300X, also 2 of 8 GB of DDR4 RAM that's running at 3200 MHz. And then we got the laptop setup. Okay, so first up, it's a PodSmart Performance Test 10. This is the trial version that I downloaded. And then as you can see here, for the CPU performance, the 2600 still wins. It's got 6 cores and 12 threads compared to the 3300X, which had 4 cores and 8 threads. It is still beating it, but not by too far. 14687 compared to 12865, and the laptop obviously much slower. What's interesting here is if you look at the numbers of all the tests, the Ryzen 3300X is actually taking the PodSmart rating compared to the Ryzen 5 system. It's actually winning over here, and I was looking at the scores. It had a lot to do with the storage and the memory speed. So the storage and memory speed, I guess, is taken into account. But just the CPU alone, the 2600 still wins. It's a better CPU compared to 3300X, but 3300X comes close. Alright, next up, Cinebench R23. Cinebench R23, there are 2 tests. One is multi-core, one is single core. So for multi-core, no surprise here. The Ryzen 5 2600, 6-core 12-thread, 4 GHz, takes the crown. 3300X got 6401, just a little bit behind. And then we have the laptop setup for 2673. Well, it's really close, but the next slide here, we got the single core performance where 3300X at 3.8 GHz, which I think it has a boost speed of 4.3 GHz, I believe. And then the single core performance is way better compared to the 2600 single core performance. So as you can see here, the Zen 2 architecture is much faster compared to the previous generation for single core performance. Next up, V-Ray benchmark. V-Ray now for 2600 4 GHz is the fastest. It's got 6069, and then for the Ryzen 3 3300X 4738, and then for the Ryzen 5 3500U it's got 2297. And you can see the performance difference. Well, the Ryzen 5 system uses the RX 580, so the Ryzen 5 plus RX 580. For the LockSmart version 3.1, it's 15,052 score. And for the Ryzen 3 3300X, that's paired with the RX 570, it scores 13,443. And then for the laptop setup, it uses the Vega 8 graphics, and then it only scores 2257 on the LockSmart. So here's the Blender BMW test for the Ryzen 5 2600 at 4 GHz. It finished the rendering, it finished the test in 4 minutes and 37 seconds, and then the 3300X 6 minutes and 12 seconds, and the laptop 12 minutes and 18 seconds. Well, 2 minutes or a minute and a half. Yeah, so more cores, more power. So based on the benchmark, this thing is pretty good. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm stuck with the RX 570 video card, and my main computer stuck with the RX 580 video card. There just isn't much of anything available right now. Not even in the used market here in Taiwan. Very strange. You think you can get some, perhaps RTX 2000 series, or perhaps some RX 5600 or 5700s. Nope, nothing. I couldn't get any upgrades. Unless if I want to go from the RX 570, 580s, go all the way up to the perhaps RX 6800s and the highest end, maybe NVIDIA. And the only way to get it right now is if I build the entire system with the store in order to get it, or if I'm lucky to find a shop that have one there available. I ain't gonna spend too much time just look around and try to find a video card. So I'm stuck with this for a while until things can be a little bit more normal for the availability. Now, I didn't get to use my main computer as much as I used to. The main computer isn't at my house, so a lot of times I'm not actually rendering my video on my main computer. I'm actually rendering it on my laptop, and as you can see, the laptop, while it can do some light editing, but then when it comes to 4K stuff, when you put more effects, there's a problem. It gets really slow. So I'm happy to have this system where it's for my bedroom and my place, and I'm able to do my rendering, take my time, and it will be fast enough to do them in. And yeah, I'm happy with that. So yeah, I guess that'll be all for this one. Thanks very much for watching. I will see you next time. Take care.